All right, Facebook followers, everyone out there, we're back on Tighter Muscle and Mind, and today I've got Kate Fitzsimons with me. Just quick background with Kate. Her auntie was the first person that told me about you, Kate, and I didn't call you. I followed you on Instagram. And then, good mate of mine, Isa Basher from the Basher Effect from EHP Labs, interviewed you. I actually heard the whole interview, but I still didn't know Leanne was related to you. And a couple of weeks ago, Leanne's up at the gym. I'm training one of our members and says, have you contacted my niece? Because your friend has gotten in before you to interview her. And I said, don't worry, Kate, my one's going to be so much better. Sorry, he is. I'm only joking. You know I love you. But Kate, for those that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So my name's Kate Fitzsimons, and I am a motivational speaker about resilience and overcoming adversity, as well as the very proud director of the Nicole Fitzsimons Foundation. So that's a charity that I established in honour of my beautiful sister, who we tragically lost in 2012 to a motorbike accident overseas in Thailand, and I just became that sister that was so determined to save other families from our heartache.
Now you sent me a video because I wanted to obviously get a bit of a background. I heard your story when I listened to the podcast. You sent me this amazing video about your sister, and mate, your sister looks so much like you. What kind of an impact has that had on your life?
It's changed me in every way, and I'm not denying it's been extremely painful to go through, but it has changed me in every way for the better in the long term. And I think that is what every loss, every hardship, every challenge, it offers us either a reason to become better, an opportunity to become better. And for me, literally learning at 20 years old that life can be over just like that, like you suddenly have to reassess all your values, and it shatters everything you believe about the world. But some of those beliefs are very limiting ones that once they're shattered, it's actually a very good thing. Yeah.
You know, when I was watching that video, you said every 3 days one Australian person dies in Thailand, and every 4 days in Bali.
Yeah.
But you just said to me before, offset, the statistics are like every 1.5 days now in Thailand.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you want your message to get out there, but why is it happening so often? And is it because people get drunk, they get reckless, and their inhibitions take over and they feel like nothing's going to happen to them? Like, why is it happening so often, and why is it happening more often now than ever before?
Yeah, so I think it really is because we all tend to take this mentality overseas, especially when we're on holidays. Like, what are holidays for? They're for relaxing, letting your hair down, and unfortunately that often includes relaxing our safety standards too. And in countries, particularly throughout Southeast Asia, where they do have very different safety standards to here in Australia, it's almost like we kind of get in that groupthink mentality of like, oh, everyone's jumping on a bike without a helmet, it must be safe, which is what I know my sister would have fallen into, because back here in Australia, there's no way that she would have even dreamt, like she was scared of motorbikes here back in Australia. But if we take Southeast Asia in its entirety, every 17 hours now we are losing an Australian in Southeast Asia. And you know what, like I can't save them all, but I would have moved heaven and earth to, save Nicole. So I will move heaven and earth to save someone else's life in her honour, and just be that powerful reminder that sits in the back of your mind, like, guys, the concrete is just as hard, over in these places. Like, you are not invincible. If it can happen to someone as beautiful, fun, loving, full of life as my sister, like, it can really happen to anyone.
So I've seen your Instagram page, and you're going to a lot of schools, and you're talking to all these young people that are in high school. What's the feeling like in there with those young kids, and what are those young kids searching for now, apart from the resilience? You're giving them that message, but what are they coming and asking you after you have one of those seminars where you're talking to the young kids?
Yeah, I think it's at the end I finished the presentation with a bit of an emotional roller coaster kind of video, slightly different to the one that you've seen, but it really just opens them up. Like, I finished with, like, guys, just remember your actions have consequences not only on your own life but the lives of everyone around you, and show than it's like what it does to a family when you lose someone so young. But you know, when you've got 17, 18-year-old boys coming up to you in tears, just saying like, thank you, you know, we needed that wake-up call. You know, it's a pretty surreal feeling for me, because I feel literally naked up in front of these kids, because I share so much of our family journey and our experience and so much of my heart and my pain with these kids. So when they open their hearts back up and really take it on board, it really means so much. And I guess like the biggest thing they're more coming up to me and saying is, which is where the resilience came from, is like, how did you cope, and how did you not shut down on the world when you went through that? As well as just saying things like, you know, I can't even imagine putting my family through that. I have a big sister, I can't even like comprehend. And I hope that they never ever have to, but I also love now that I've stood up in front of them as an example that you can go through something so dark and still find some sort of light in it that is meaningful and gives you a reason to keep getting up out of bed even when it hurts.
It must have been so hard at the start. Like obviously when it happened, like your whole world is just crashing down on you. When I look at you, you look like you've got it together. But then you go back in and you do these talks, and then you get emotional again. How important is it to talk about how you feel, and how does that help with your recovery of understanding that, you know, we can talk about it and we shouldn't hold it in and let it take control of our lives?
Yeah, I am really vulnerable at sharing, you know, like I talk about there were nights where, you know, I'd cry so hard that, you know, you can't even breathe, and nights where mum had me on like the hotlines, and then I didn't know how I was going to get out of bed, and so that's the part that I'm always cautious about. Kids see me now really strong and in love with life, but it still doesn't even mean now where I have those days where I just don't want to pull the covers up over my head. And so, you know, I've learned through my self-discovery is like, you know, there's a lot of talk about post-traumatic stress, but there's this beautiful new kind of phenomenon they're finding called post-traumatic growth. But you can't get to the place of growth without going through the stress. So it's not like you skip through it. It's like you have to be willing to go through the darkness to get to the other side. And so I do step back into those moments with the students and I'm completely vulnerable in sharing that. And you know, we've got some pretty moving photos in that. I had a beautiful friend who just, during those months where you think, like, why would you ever want photos of this? But now it's really powerful, like the raw emotion can really help connect with the kids, because I don't want them to think that, I've just, you know, woke up one day and it's all dandy. It was just literally one foot in front of the other. In fact, my motto, and it still is, you know, little by little, one travels far. So
I remember, I guess the greatest impact of my life was my dad, and I remember when he passed away, you want to continue their legacy, and there's days, especially early on, it's just raw. And sometimes, like for me, what happened was there was these moments early on, and I'm pretty sure you probably went through those moments. You're going, what is it here in life? Like what's there for me? Even though you're going 100 miles an hour, you want to be successful, you wanted everything to work, even though everything's hard and everything, you want to be great at anything, it is 24/7. Like there's sacrifice that needs to be made. And I'll never forget, I think it was a weekend, and I was driving back from mum's house, and it was dark. It was probably about 10 o'clock at night. And I'm questioning everything at this point in my life, right? I'm going, what is it? I don't feel, there's something in me that's so empty right now. And it was funny, because I'm just asking myself that question, like I'm putting the pressure on myself. And I wouldn't say to everyone to do that, because I think I'm strong enough to be able to do that to myself. So, and then I seen in the darkness, I seen this stillness and this beauty in that moment. And when I felt that, I said, I can overcome anything. Was there a moment for you during that period when your sister passed away where you go, this is what it is, this is what life's about?
Yeah. Gosh, those first few weeks feel like such a blur, but I know they were like the pivotal part of what really kind of put me on the path I'm now on. Just little things like, you know, 20 years old and you're writing a funeral speech and looking at what really matters most. And like, I left high school the little perfect high achiever, always striving for the straight A's and all of that, but inside, like, I really struggled. I did not have a great relationship with myself. I had an eating disorder and no confidence, and just was always like trying to fit in what society said I should be, and all of that. And it wasn't like my parents put a lot of pressure on me, but it was, you know, I put the pressure on myself, and social media was just beginning then. So, and then when you have to sit down and write what I loved most about my sister, and hear all the stories about how she made such an impact on this earth. You know, she was literally living true to follow your dreams. She was in the New Zealand Ballet and becoming a sports journalist, but through all of that, she knew what mattered most, and this is my core values now, is just to be kind and to be brave. And I had to ask myself those questions of, if someone was sitting down right now and writing a funeral speech about me, would they be able to say genuinely that Kate was, you know, kind and courageous and generous with her time and her lives? And I had to be like, no. Like, if I had to die tomorrow, this wouldn't be the person I'd be most proud of. And so for me, like, initially it was like, leave a legacy that, you know, you're proud of, because every day, you know, could be your last. We never know that. And so I had a corporate job that I was going into after losing Nicole, and I did start that job just because I wanted to give it a try, and I'm so glad I did, because now I know what the 9 to 5 feels like. But yeah, and then I just sat back and I was like, I don't want to have regrets, you know, like I did in that moment. I take myself back to that moment of writing that speech so many times, because Nicole left too soon, but she left with no regrets. And it's such a cliche, but it is honestly so true. And what I kind of, it's like my North Star in my journey. It's just kind of like, is this in line with, you know, the kind of person that you want to become an example of? So
you talked about the 9 to 5 job, but this is 24/7 for you, right? So the mayhem within this, and because to me, being a high achiever, you said you're a high achiever, right? You always put pressure on yourself. So you want to make this foundation the best in the world. That's what I gather from you, talking to you. There's a lot of pressure that's connected to that. You don't show that, but every day you'd be waking up thinking, what am I going to do today to get me closer to that goal, where everyone knows the foundation, where everyone knows your resilience work. Like, that's pressure, but you don't show it. Now, how do you do that?
I think for me, it is having that ultimate goal, but then defining success by my inputs. Because at the end of the day, if I can look myself in the mirror and know that, you know, I did go and send those 100 extra emails, and I did call that person, and I did everything within my power, then I can still fall asleep at night patting myself on the back. And so it is, again, you know, because I think what made me brave enough to leave my job as well, because a lot of people thought I was insane, like, for doing so and all of that, but I was just kind of like, you know, regardless of the outcome, am I ever going to look back in 10, 20 years time and be like, oh, you made such an embarrassment of yourself because you stood up for, you know, the love you had for your sister and all of that. And so it's kind of like, I always like to meet my future self in, you know, and I'm like, what the worst that can happen is I'll have an amazing story. Like, you know, I'm here now because of the risks I chose to take, and I get, you know, I wouldn't put a monetary value on the opportunity to have a platform like this and to kind of share ideas and stories like that. So I do have my ultimate goal, which I'm very driven towards, and you know, even in with my fitness, like, you know, I like hitting certain things, but then I kind of have to also step back and really define success on my own terms and what's within my control as well.
What does that ultimate goal look like?
So for myself,
for you, what does it look like?
I want to continue to reach as many schools as I can with my presentations. So it would be, you know, I've reached like 60 schools this year, so it would be to double that for next year, and really ensure schools are kind of booking in either like my travel safety or resilience, but I believe they're both so important, because one helps their physical well-being and one is their mental and emotional well-being. So it would really to continue to grow my speaking platform, as well as putting in, I'd love to get like an online program as well, something that the kids get a taste of what I'm all about in my teachings, and then something that they can carry on beyond that as well. So, yeah.
You talked about the mental side. When you came in and you've competed before, we talked off camera, how important is training for the mental side? But like obviously physically you look amazing, but how important is it mentally for you? Like especially after what you went through and what you're doing?
It's honestly everything. I can't imagine a day in my life without some sort of physical activity. I mentioned to you that, so we lost Nicole on a Saturday, and then the Monday morning I was in the gym on the treadmill at about 3 k's an hour, but I was putting one foot in front of the other, and I think even the metaphor of that, of moving, of just one step at a time, was just powerful for me. And I draw so many metaphors and kind of ideas from fitness, like even so within 6 months of losing Nicole, I did my first competition with INBA, ICN now, but I kind of, you said like your world is just flipping and it's just in turmoil during those first few months of grief, but it was like my safety net, my rock. I just knew I would go into the gym and I just have to lift these exact and it was like reliable for me, and it kind of gave me something stable to hold on to, as well as like the mind muscle connection. Like it's like meditation for me. You have to be there in the moment and it really focuses your mind. And I think what I love most as well is the gym is such a representation that day by day, little by little, you can make a difference. You can begin to change your body. And it's the same with any process, any goal you've got outside of the gym. It's day by day, little by little, the small goals add up into achieving the big goal. And just, even you meet people like you and all that in the gym, and just some people like...
Hopefully I'm a nice guy, but I'll ask you that off camera later, because you might not like me. I gotta ask your auntie. I said, did you watch the whole thing? But I hope I am.
No, but you know what I mean. There's you meet new people and just getting out. But I wouldn't be who I am today without my fitness. And I think I wrote a post yesterday, even just like, think what you will about the fitness world, but to me it's been one of the greatest gifts in my life that I will take everywhere in the world with me. I was training over in New York a couple of weeks ago. I've been in Bathurst and Kalgoorlie, wherever there's a gym, I will hunt it down and I will find it and I will be lifting in it.
So you're absolutely committed then to everything, because it shows me that when you put your mind to something, you make it happen, right? And I never forget, like when I rang you a couple of weeks ago, I just connected with you instantly. And talking to you right now, this is why I do the podcast. Like I just continue to learn. And by you sitting here and your auntie, I love your auntie, right? And she goes, mate, you got to meet Kate. Yeah, fuck, another person. And then I don't even know that you're Kate. It's the same Kate on Iz's, and I'm listening to the whole thing. And as I was listening to it, I go, this girl's absolutely amazing, like what she's gone through. Not even knowing who you are. And then being able to talk to you on the phone and sitting down with you here today, I feel this amazing warmth. I feel this girl that's just got this amazing heart, that this was actually your path. It's funny how life changes your path and under the worst circumstances. But the impact that your sister made, as bad as that tragedy is, it's changed your life forever in the most impactful way for you. And do you see that?
I definitely
as
do.
bad as it is.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
And I think, people tiptoe around like, oh, I don't want to say like your sister was meant to die or anything, but it's like, well, she did. And I can either look at that as like this huge mistake that shows nothing more than we live in this cruel world of suffering, or saying that in this suffering something good could come from it. And I do like to tell myself the story that you know what, I'm the third child for a reason, like it's,
you're the third.
I'm the
Is
third
there three?
child. Yes, I have an older
You're the
brother.
youngest. I'm the youngest as well.
Oh, you know what it's
That's
like.
why we get along.
Always stuck in the middle of the car and bottom bunk. But so I really, in my mind, it took a while for me to get to this point where I can really step back and see, what, maybe this was always the way it was meant to be, because Nicole lived her life every single day. And so although it's a tragedy, she went at 24 years old, you know what, I think maybe had she lived till she was 89, like this impact that she was actually meant to have through, you know, the work and what I've meant to carry on and do, like would it have been the same? Because ultimately I know she would say to me, you know, I just want to touch hearts and live a life that makes a difference, and she's done that in such a big way, and it's like she almost got it too quickly in 24 years, you know. And so I had this image in my mind of like, we're running a relay and Nicole's just like passed the baton to me and she's like, go get him, girl. And that's what I really feel. I was like, what I love most about my sister, her energy, her love, her generosity, her courage, I can keep that alive within me and bring that out rather than let me die off with her. I'm going to keep her alive here with me. And I love, like you said earlier, love when people say they can feel that, because she was amazing and she's alive 6 years later and I still get to speak about my sister every day. It's awesome.
Mate, it's exactly how I felt. Obviously my dad was older, but it's exactly how I felt with my dad as well, because, you know, he was a man of few words, but it wasn't about the words. And this is what I say to people, it's not about what you say, it's what you do. And life happens for you, not to you. And Anthony Robbins put that just perfectly, right? Within your journey, how many people have been sending, obviously you get thousands of messages and emails. Like, what does that do to you when you're down and out and you're tired? Because we talked about that, you get tired, you're knocked out, you're pushing yourself a limit and you get this one email, this one message. What does that do to you?
Are you sure you weren't in my Instagram inbox last night? Because that's exactly what happened.
No, I could feel it though, I could feel it. There was something I felt there.
Yeah, no, I actually, like last night I was just flat for a bit, and you know, and it's kind of like, you know, it's hard, like I don't even, when you're like, you don't have a boss at the end of the day going, oh, you did a good job or anything, like you have to be your own discipline, like you have to discipline yourself, but you also have to reward yourself. And anyway, and I was kind of feeling a bit flat, and then waiting in the Instagram after a post, this girl just said like, hi Kate, you know, it's been a few years now since I've seen you, but I just want you to know I read everything, it's making a difference. And I do get, I wouldn't say thousands, but I do get a fair few messages like that. Course, but they are literally like my bank account to me in terms of what keeps fueling my passion.
That's your oxygen.
And inspiration. I draw so much strength from that. And you know, I had a friend the other day, he said to me, you know, go and inspire those kids, but more than anything, I hope they inspire you back. And it is so true, they do. You know, that those kids are my inspiration, knowing that, you know, I don't think I'm not there to solve all their problems, but I am there to just be some sort of, I guess, inspiration for them. So that definitely keeps me going. And I actually have like a little folder where I read back over them on a bad day. Because I'm sure it's the same with you. I'm sure you know the feeling.
Look, every day is a different challenge. Every day is a different challenge, and every day I just know one word that just gets me moving. It's just discipline. Because I'm not going to be happy all the time. I'm not going to be motivated all the time. But I can be disciplined. I can choose that. And as I keep moving and taking action and making the next thing work and the next thing work, I get motivated to do more. But then there's things that happen in between that don't work well. So then what makes me keep going is just this discipline to keep moving forward to that big outcome that you want in life. Now, I see a lot of people in life, right? You know, we talked off camera and they come up to you and they go, I want to be a speaker, I want to do seminars. That's not easy. Like, it's a lot of work. You've got to be very connected. You've got to be great at communication. You've got to feel the crowd. Sometimes the energy's not, most of the time the energy's not there. Like, you've got to create the energy within you about you, not about them. You can't take the energy from them. It's got to be about you. People watch that and they want to be like Kate. What do you say to them?
Definitely don't want to shut their dream down straight away. But,
100%.
you know, I was actually thinking the other day, so I did mention to you, first of all, it's your ability to be good at something is your willingness to suck at it, you know, to begin with. And so many of us aren't willing to suck at something. So I was getting up speaking initially, you know, I used to have notes, my hands would literally tremble, you know, I'd screw things up, I'd forget my words, and I still do that today even. Or I always seem to get myself tongue twisted on words that just come out totally wrong, and I'm like, but It's through, you know, the only way in anything you get better at something is through practice. And the thing with public speaking is you have to practice in front of a crowd with all that judgment. But you kind of draw strength, like your brain wants to tell you you're going to die the first time, and then you realize that as humiliate, like, you know, as it was, you survived, and so if you can do it once, you can do it again, and keep learning and being open to the feedback. And I think really having that growth mindset of I just can't do it yet. You know, nothing in life is fixed. Like as humans, we're the ultimate adaptation machines. If we practice something enough, you know, you are going to get better at it. So it is having that beginner's mindset of I just haven't got this yet, which makes all the difference. But also I think if you want to be a speaker, like I'm like, we all have a voice. Like we're born with a voice, but we don't all necessarily have a story yet. A story comes through life experience. And so I wanted to become a speaker. Like Dad sat me down in year 10. He's like, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, I just want to speak and communicate. And Dad's like, that's great. What are you going to talk about? And I'm like, yeah, true. I don't have much. So I ended up doing a business degree majoring in marketing because that integrated my love of communication. And speaking, and so I went and got skilled at something that still enabled me to do something that I was passionate about. I never dreamed in a million years that I'd have a story that like this worth sharing. And so I say to students, like, just stay open to life as well. If something's kind of niggling you to go travel or to try something, follow that curiosity. You know, you're not born with a passion. You have interests, and then you can flame those interests into a passion. But yeah, I think just let life, you know, take you places too, so you can have experiences that are worth sharing, because you know you can't talk about hot air.
100%. I was reading a book, The Best Teams Win, and one of the three of the attributes that you should have is competitiveness, coachability, and curiosity. You seem to have all those things, right? So for anything to work, and you said you got to suck at it, but what was it? I'll be better at it, or
I just haven't got it yet.
Yeah. So if you don't know something, I haven't got it yet. So then give that a timeline then, right? You give it a timeline. So I'm going to learn that in 24 hours or 48 hours. But you do that with everything, right? And that becomes the premise now for you to be a speaker. But you've also got to have no fear in sucking as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where people go, you're terrible, do something else. Now, how do you come back from that? Look, that's not easy, because man, I sucked at a lot of things, and even when I started doing the podcast, I had to have notes. I had to write things down. I had to think about the questions, and I was going to sequence the questions, and I'm like, okay, I'm not in that moment. Like, you know what I mean? And when people fall over now, they struggle more to get up. Why is that?
To be honest, I think we take it way too personally to start with. Like, it's just because someone says you suck at speaking or sucked at that particular presentation doesn't mean overall, first of all, you're a terrible speaker or that you're a terrible human being. I think as well, like, too much, we build our self-confidence and our self-esteem around too much always being right and perfect and getting the straight A, as opposed to building our self-esteem up around being a learner. And I made that massive shift after losing Nicole too. I was always just like wanting to be seen as perfect, and now I just want to be seen, like, I guess as brave. And I think I don't know, I think the kids, like, my presentations are so far from perfect, but even when I stumble in that, like, I actually recognize they connect with me more. Like, actually in some of the emails I actually sent out, like, I was doing an email sending out some gifts and, you know, using MailChimp and all that, and they were kind of automatic, and then I realised I stuffed it up, so I had to send another one going, oops, so sorry, I sent the wrong link. And do you know how many replies I get from the kids going, oh, that's okay, like, thank you so much. They reached back out once they realised, like, I was human. And and then found studies where people actually bought something more when the person accidentally knocked the water over as when they were doing this thing, as opposed to when it was all perfect. And so I think, you know, allowing the imperfection can also, you know, vulnerability is a huge thing, but also so powerful. And I think if you're willing to go into the discomfort of that, and willing to feel humiliated, like, discomfort is like the currency for your dreams. If you're willing to be 100%. Uncomfortable, that is when you get to the other side. It's like the river of misery, but on the other side of it could be, you know, your dream come true. So Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
kind of, again, inside my mindset is how I've kind of coached myself through some of the ups and downs of my journey.
You seem to me very self-taught. You said you coach yourself a lot. I see some of the best people that become great at anything where they've coached themselves more than anyone else has coached them. Is that a practice for you that you do often?
Yeah, so I'm like a huge podcast listener. So what I do is I just pick up lots of different things. You know, I've done everything from, you know, Tony Robbins to Brene Brown and everything in between. And they'll just say little things and it gets me thinking, and then I kind of play with, like I said, like I have little conversations in my head. So I would say I coach myself a lot. I am certified as a life coach as well, and I've got some tools through my coach that have taught me. But I think that's essentially what I want to equip students with the tools and abilities to do, because I think it's the most powerful thing to stop focusing so much on your energy out there and just tap it in and then approach the world from that inside out perspective. And you hold on to your power then. You know, it's not about negative thoughts are going through my head all the time. Like even before I came on this video, I'm like, who am I to be sharing my story? But then I'm just like, who are you?
Have you seen your video? Your video is good, mate. Like, that's a good video. Like, everyone should be watching that video.
Thank you. Yeah. But I still, like, it's not about...
like, Julia Bishop talked about you.
Yeah.
Far out. Can you tell us about Julia Bishop? Like, she got up there, talked about how resilient you were, how brave you were. Like, that's massive.
Well, my highlight was when I got to speak in front of her last October. We were at a consular event for Smart Traveller, and she was on the stage with me. I got to stand up and share the story and the journey I've been on with Nicoles Foundation. So that was really exciting. But then right before my 26th birthday this year, so just a couple months ago, she invited me in for a personal meeting with her. I got to meet one-on-one with her, and we sat down for about half an hour, and she asked all about Nicoles Foundation, and we chat about everything from the royal wedding to our favourite nail polish colour. She was cool and down to earth. Massive fangirl of her. But the best part was we got to even do some Insta stories, and I had like this crazy filter on her face, and she was loving it. So,
she was loving it.
But
so she wants to be Insta famous. Julia Bishop, guys, there you go. You got her first. Julia Bishop wants to be Insta famous.
But you know what was... I started the campaign back in October, what was like 2012 really, but like probably a few weeks after losing Nicole, and I remember I emailed out to Smart Traveller and I was like, this is my goal, I'm going to take this around Australia and I'd love for you guys to jump on board. And I just had this big vision, and to be honest, at first it was like pretty much crickets, and at first it was like stung and I felt a bit embarrassed, like, oh, they don't think what I'm doing is important. But then I was like, hang on, you have a choice here, and rather than make it mean what you're doing isn't valuable, I used that as my motivation to put my head down and prove the value of what I was doing, because no one is entitled to success they haven't yet earned. But through learning how to network and, you know, kind of tailor, like kind of, I guess, pull in my message and do all this stuff, like I'm growing into a woman who one day will be there with Julie Bishop. And so for me, in my brain, I was like, this is as good as done. This is my goal, to get it around Australia and have the government on board. And then it was just a matter of which path to take to get there, and not sticking to it has to be this way. You know, stay open to, never know when someone might listen to a podcast and then reach out. Like, I can't control all of that, you know, so stay open to the magic of life as well too, which has been big for me as well. I've met people who have opened doors I would have never thought. So but it's probably one of my proudest achievements for Nicoles Foundation, because you don't get much higher than Julie Bishop.
100%. When I was saying Julia Bishop, I just wanted to ask her, what kind of a person is she?
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
You spend a lot of time at airports. Last time I was speaking here, you were at an airport. They can be very lonely places, especially when you're doing the kind of work you're doing. Like when I'm at an airport, like, oh man, I'm just like, my mind goes everywhere. You spend so much time there. What goes through your mind in those moments?
Generally podcasting.
That's good. That's good.
So I'm always podcasting. I like people watching at the airport too.
Yeah, I like that as well. Yeah.
You know, I've learned to love the travel. People are like, how do you do it? I'm like, well, if it's an inevitable part of my job. Like, so I'd say that, like, it's a circumstance. It's neutral, and I get to choose how I think about it. And there's no upside on hating it. It's like 80% of what I do, because, you know, I might even do day trips and like that to Melbourne for like an hour or two presentation, most of that is going to be in transit. So, you know, thanks to social media and that, I often use it. Even sometimes if I have something going on in my brain, I'll get the notes out on my phone and I'll just write. And, or, you know, there's ways to, thank goodness for internet, do work on the road, but I see it as me time, and it's something I really genuinely enjoy my own company. So
that's good. It's better than me. I need people around to pat me on the back. I'll ask you a couple more questions, but you are the CEO of your life, right? And I see that with everyone. It's so important to own your wins and your losses. Do you feel like ownership of your life is one of the most important things?
Absolutely. I think, you know, what matters most at the end of the day is what you think of yourself when you're all alone, and it's like, are you being true to you? And it's one of the hardest things, I think, because people always post, like I was saying, like quotes like live true to you, but then if you ask them like why you're in that job, or why you're driving that car, or why you're doing this, it's often always so often for someone else. And it does take a lot of courage and even vulnerability and an opening up to people about what your truth is. And, you know, I'm not perfect at it either, especially in social media now, where all we're seeing is other people's lives, and it's compare and despair, you know, 24/7 if we let our minds go there. So, you know, it's easy for me, like, even like, if I'm honest, like I don't have huge following on Instagram, and it's suddenly like, oh well, maybe I'm not having enough impact, maybe like you know, my brain wants to tell me all these things, and then I step back and I remind myself, Kate, like, you're not here to change the world. Even just changing one person's life changes their world. And so it really kind of like brings me back down into remembering what my vision is, and not what society says you'll be happy when you have, you know, the 100,000 followers. It's like, I can be happy right now, because what I want my life to stand for is, as I said, being kind, being brave, and being myself.
That's so true. That's so true. Kate, finally, what do you want to be known for? When it's all finished, all set, all done, what do you want to be known for?
So it comes down, as I said, to being kind, being brave, and just leaving people that little bit better than what I found them. My sister definitely had a way of doing that. You know, 6 years later, I still hear stories of that. So I don't know, one day, one of my beautiful relatives is going to be standing up for me at my funeral, and I want them to walk away feeling inspired by the life that I live. So then I give them the gift of feeling inspiration to go and live theirs to the fullest as well.
Well, Kate, thank you very much. I mean, there's so much for people to actually take away from this podcast. I mean, just that resilience factor. I mean, I'm lucky I got a great team behind me. What would I do without the team, Kate? Honestly, like, you walked in here.
A to Z's at it again.
But can you put that up again? Far out. Kate, where can we find you?
Did you forget that?
No, I mean, I forgot that, but I'll say the show notes at the end.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the show notes, isn't it? Okay, where can we find you? No, because you're on Instagram, but where else are you on?
So Instagram.
Kate Fitzsimons.
So Instagram is at @KateMarie_Fitz.
Okay.
So
okay, that's
it's
true.
a bit of a long one, because my sister-in-law has the same name as me, and
wow.
she took Kate_Fitzy and then Kate_Fitz. That person would
That's
get
hard.
So it is Kate Marie, one word, _FITZ. And my website is katefitzsimons.com. There is only one M in Fitzsimons. Gosh, is there anything else? I'm mainly most active on that. You can find me on Facebook. I do Facebook videos and stuff, and I'm also doing some IGTV things as well these days around all of this stuff, which I'm loving. But please join me online. I love posting on there and putting stuff up, and I get a lot out of reading other people's, and it's cool when people let me know that they get something out of it too. So don't be shy.
Well, thanks again, guys, and everyone. Actually, the show notes. Visit the show notes on Titan Fitness. See, I'm not good with the scripts, mate. I'm off the cuff.
You're not good yet. You're not good yet.
Yeah, I'm not good yet. If anyone says I'm not good, just say yet. Guys, if there's one thing you're going to take away from Kate, if you're not good, just say yet at the end and then be good after that. Show notes, guys. Get to the show notes. Thanks again. It's on titanfitness.com.au. Kate, thanks. I said thanks a few times, but honestly, you're an amazing human being. Just want to thank your auntie for putting me in contact with you. And, mate, you're doing amazing work and just keep doing it.
No, thank you so much, man.
Thanks. Thanks.